So we've read this book about Keith Haring before in class, and you should have just watched a little video about him. I want you to look at this image here and see how there are some figures that look like people and some that are just random shapes. And then the little lines for movement lines. We're going to make artwork based on that piece of artwork. So remember, when we make these Keith Haring people, we've talked about this in the past. What I like to do first is draw a stick person that looks like they're moving. They're holding some kind of a moving position. Then I draw a bubble around them and then erase the stick figure. So it's very important that you draw that stick figure really lightly. Remember, Keith Haring's figures are not really very complicated. They're pretty simple, and they do look like bubbles. They're very rounded edges. Sometimes they have little corners for the elbows and knees, but otherwise they're really very rounded. You'll also notice that I turned the paper, so it's like slightly it's one turn. So I'm having this person be facing a different way. Then I turn it again. This will help me make my paper look a little bit more random. It'll make it look a little bit more like I just was drawing all over the paper, which is a similar style to what Keith Haring did in that artwork in the cover of the book. So then I turn the paper again. I like to do my drawings in odd numbers, so I decided to do 5 figures, real human figures in it. And then I started to add just kind of weird little details. Sometimes that first one I drew, it looked like it had like an arm, and then it was just kind of bumps and zigzags. This one that I just drew kind of has a mouth. My son thought that one looked like a violin. This one almost looks like a dinosaur. This one, they're just kind of random shapes that I do with like bumps and wiggles, and then I sometimes add shapes in them. Now I'm going through and adding all the movement lines. Think about how they're going to move. Then I use a black marker to outline them all. If you don't have markers, you can use colored pencils. If you do use markers, erase the pencil lines. Then you can add some color. I decided to stick with just 3 of the shapes, 3 of the figures being colored,